This is William K. Murtaugh, Witness 1, and today we're going to talk yet again about Timothy Charles Homseth and some other people. This is, I believe, day number 71 of Field McConnell being locked up in the county slammer. And it's also, I believe, 3 days since we have heard from Field McConnell. Field McConnell is kind of silent. Most of the stuff coming out of the Field Report is now being done by Kirk Pendergrass, who seems to be simulcasting from his own channel. And not much is being heard from Field McConnell. Now, there was also another development in that it is likely that another channel is going to be set up on YouTube having to do with the Children's Crusade. Now, it's not exactly clear when contributing material is going to be made to the Children's Crusade and who's going to be running it. But I would suspect that Field McConnell's name is going to be there. And maybe to a lesser extent, Timothy Charles Homseth. Which brings us to Mr. Homseth. Now, Tim Homseth has gotten into yet another conspiracy theory. This one way out there. And what can be gathered from Mr. Homseth is that there may be women out there raising children, and their children are not theirs. Oh, really? That means all these parents have been wasting their time on this kid that they raised, and that kid is not theirs. Through some convoluted process, the embryos were taken or somehow put into the mother, and she gave birth to a baby that's not hers, or what have you. I haven't quite figured it out because it's a bunch of gibberish. But it's meat for those who take in this nonsense. And so Tim Homseth goes out and puts this stuff out there. Now, other than some of these screwball theories, Mr. Homseth has been relatively quiet. There has not been any videos lately that I'm aware of. Mr. Homseth is doing these one-a-day article thingies. He might make a comment or two in his Facebook page, but that's about it. He's kind of seeding day by day into the background, and as I expected, so is Field McConnell to some extent. I mean, his name is there, and it's probably going to be there for a while. But eventually, we're going to see where Dr. Good Vibes, Dr. Feel Good, whatever you want to call him, is going to step in and basically take over the show. That seems to be where this is going, and it's also something I expected. You know, I kind of felt that since he was a sidekick, he was going to become the star of the show if there should be a change necessary. Because remember, a long time ago, Field McConnell said he was on the verge of retiring. That Donald J. Trump wouldn't let him retire. But now that Field McConnell is sitting in county jail and is likely going to be going down on an extended Florida vacation, he's going to have to retire and hand the reins over to somebody else. In this case, it's Dr. Good Vibes. Or Dr. Feelgood. Dr. Whoever the hell he is. The doctor. And no, I don't mean Doctor Who. So we're not going to have anybody going and running around in a TARDIS and doing weird things. They get to do it on YouTube. Now, in a little discussion that happened on a Facebook page, it came out that the owner of Phil McConnell is Eager Beaver. And this brings me back to a point that I've made before, that Phil McConnell actually isn't the star of his own show. He's simply being handled by outsiders. And it would be apparent, as it's been pointed out to me many times over, that it is probably this Eager Beaver person. So at some point, I'm going to look into Eager Beaver a little more, since this name seems to come up every once in a while, and see just who exactly this owner of Phil McConnell is. For it would appear that it's going to be up to Eager Beaver where the field report goes. Right now, it seems to be going into the possession of Kirk Pendergrass and his Law Channel. And Kirk Pendergrass is gradually steering away from Phil McConnell as well. Kirk Pendergrass is concentrating on his wackadoodle law practice. And from that angle, other than the name field report, that is going away. Now, I remind people again that Kirk Pendergrass had a dispute not only with Tim McConnell, or Tim Holmseth, but with Randy the banker over the two computers and the car. This would indicate that the car was bought out of funds that were given to Kirk Pendergrass, and so were the computers. That it was with the understanding that the funds for the car were his, and that the computer or computers were his as well. That there is no necessity for him to return these items, and there certainly is no necessity to return the car, since he made arrangements to buy the car on his own, using the $800 or so, plus probably funds out of his own pocket, since the car in question is worth more than $800. It's not the original car that he was going to buy for $800. Or so the story goes. It's kind of hard to keep track of what exactly is true when it comes to these people. But be that as it may, it seems that there's a distance increasing between Kirk Pendergrass, Chris Hallett, and this group. Although there is a connection that is going to keep these people together at a later time. And this happens to do with the Absug arrest and the kidnapping plot that led to it. Now, the investigation into this little mess is by all means not over, as people are going to find out fairly quickly. For it seems there's an ever-expanding number of people that got involved in this little mess. Now, it is alleged that Phil McConnell and Mr. Elliott, E-Clause, let's put it that way, somehow were directly involved in the planning of this, or at least in putting the idea in the woman's mind. And it is alleged that weapons were supplied, either one or more, along with an automobile. really interesting that people seem to have a lot of cars to give away or buy or give money to buy. And it's like a key commodity in all these various situations. Tim Holmseth managed to get himself a $12,000 car. Kirk Pendergrass got himself a car. And now these two nitwits that plotted to kidnap the child got a car. All from the same source. Not necessarily Peter McConnell, although he may have been the conduit for this latest automobile, but from the banker of this little enterprise, who also seems to be involved in some capacity. Now, originally, the states that we were concerned with were Florida, Wisconsin, Colorado, and Montana. And now 2 more states are in the mix, one of which I had discussed earlier, and that is the previously unnamed state of Arkansas. Now, this is an interesting one, and one that's probably going to cause a hell of a blow-up once all this information becomes more widely known. Montegraph went into it in detail on his recent live stream, and others are beginning to go into the details of this little mess. For it appears that sometime during this tour of the eastern United States, Ms. Agnes Ekbud and her friend found themselves in Ocala, Florida for a while. Not entirely known how long this lasted, but they were down there. And so, after they left there, it was assumed that they had gone to Montana, either through Colorado or directly to Montana. What they were doing in Montana is something I haven't quite figured out yet, but I would be surprised if the kid had been that far away from Denver, Colorado. But then something else came about. For it appears that sometime between Wisconsin and Florida, the couple took a side trip to Virginia, and somebody in Virginia got involved in this little mess. And this has created quite a stir, since the woman behind the Twitter account that supposedly was in Virginia has locked down her account. So, getting a little information on Virginia is going to take me a little bit of time. But then we move again over to over to Arkansas, and why this is important. It's important because the daughter, as I call her in this little adventure, might have had something to do with not only harboring the couple involved in this attempted kidnap, but she may have had a direct connection to it. Now, the details are a little fuzzy at this point because there's a bit of speculation, but the accusation goes that she may have helped in some way with this enterprise. Now, herein lies the problem. It turns out that the father of this daughter is running, I believe it's in the GOP primary, for the Senate. And it's not going to be a good thing for that particular candidate to have it known that his daughter took part, or is alleged to have taken part, in an attempted kidnap of a child. And that the mother at the center of this attempted kidnapping has been charged with Munchausen by proxy, which, even though it's a medical condition, can be considered a crime, especially if any harm has come to the child, which has been alleged by the Colorado CPS. And so, politically, this would be something of a mess for this guy, especially if his opponent found out about it, or even somebody on the Democratic side of the race. So this is creating a whole new can of worms for a bunch of different people as this story of this kidnapping expands. And I understand that there is an active project in place to notify the Arkansas media as well as the opponent of the candidate in question of the activities of his daughter and how they may tie into this attempted kidnapping. And at the same time, this seems to be also the focus of investigators in Colorado and the FBI that are trying to figure out how all this went down and who is involved. It is being reported on an ever-increasing number of media publications, including, of all things, People magazine, about this kidnapping attempt. And so as this story gains prominence in the media and the additional story of the politician being involved, this is going to turn into quite a scandal. Now, we've already had a scandal-filled political season this year, and it looks like it's about to get even worse as we go down this path of uncertainty as to how things are going to go about in this election year. And all politics being local, I think the folks over in Arkansas are going to have a lot of tongue wagging to do once more and more people start to find out about this little mess with the kidnapping. But in the midst of all this, there's kind of in the prequel of all this, there isn't a whole heck of a lot going on other than people arguing with each other and people chipping away at different pieces of information, including the early history of how Abel Danger, aka David Hawkins, and Phil McConnell got together, who introduced these two and so forth. And for that, you folks might want to check out Kevin Marston. He's been doing an extensive investigation of Mr. Hawkins for quite a long time, and he's quite thorough. He has resources that I don't have, so I would check him out. He's rather interesting to listen to. I've always liked people with that UK accent, which he seems to have. So give him a listen. I think you might like what he has to say, and it does seem to fill in a lot when you try to understand how Phil McConnell got where he was, how Abel Danger was connected until recently with Phil McConnell, and begin to understand that once Abel Danger and Phil McConnell parted company, things started to fall apart, and how they're continuing to fall apart despite the efforts of individuals to try and keep this enterprise going. We're beginning to see the beginning of the end with this house of cards, as there seems to be an increasing lack of organization. There seems to be an increasing amount of disarray, and what seems to be an eventual end to this saga, as people have determined that enough is enough and it's time to go away. And as I close out this segment, this also goes for the fate of Timothy Charles Homestead. It is becoming abundantly clear that Timothy is fading fast He's desperately trying to come up with fresh material to keep his relevancy, and it doesn't seem to be working. The wilder his theories get, the more annoyed people are getting with him. And I'm also going to make a note here, something that I should have mentioned earlier. Someone made a comment to Tim Holmseth, and basically it said that they were getting frustrated with Holmseth and what he's been doing. And the commenter basically blew up at him. But there is dissent among the ranks. There's people on the field side that are mad at the Pendergrass people. There are people on the Pendergrass side that are mad at the McConnell people. And there are people on both sides that are mad at Tim. And there are people on Tim's side that are mad at everybody. So it's just a circus merry-go-round going around and around and around and around until somebody falls off the horse or until somebody stops the merry-go-round. I might, just might, be able to do a live stream from the Orange County Courthouse on Friday. Now, it's going to depend on a number of factors. It's been roughly 10 years since I broadcast from the Orange County Courthouse. And so I've got to go over there Friday morning and find out if anything's changed. And if nothing's changed, and I just renew my press credentials at the courthouse, I will be able to live stream from the press booth at the Orange County Courthouse. Now, why am I doing this? Well, as I might have stipulated before, this is a test of my equipment for live streaming from a facility like the Orange County Courthouse. Orange County Courthouse and the Broward County Courthouse, or Broward County. We have two counties that sound almost alike in Florida. It's kind of stupid. But Broward County and Orange County have the same kind of equipment. For those who are technically minded, you can take and plug an XLR plug for your XLR plug for your audio in the audio portion of the mixing booth, and a BNC connector through an adapter into your computer using the video portion of the feed. And what this does, this allows you to tap into the court microphones as well as the court robotic cameras that are operated by the court itself. Nobody in the press room can operate those cameras. We can just take in the feed from the video and from the audio. And this way I can test my mixing equipment out, I can test my computer out, and I can test to see if I'm going to be able to live stream a trial as it happens, like I used to. And if I'm able to do this, then when I get down to Fort Lauderdale and do the field trial, I'll be doing the same thing that you will see Friday. I will be live streaming from the court, and I will be able to tap into their equipment. And once I know the schedule of what's going to happen down there, I'll announce it and determine my schedule for when I'm going down to Fort Lauderdale to cover this event live. And so that's what's on tap this week. And Saturday, it may be just an open forum where we discuss anything that happens to come up on the Murdathon. Just a general yak fest. And what I'm going to do is I am going to be listening in on Monty if he webcasts at the same time. We seem to webcast around the same time every day. And again, I don't want to take away from his audience. So I I don't mind if people just run off to Monty. But what I do is I turn the audio down on Monty so I don't get a crossfeed. And I read the chat to see if there's anything interesting in his chat. And so I'll tune in Monty as well, either during my webcast or after, or what have you. And just remember that, my live stream gets recorded. So if you're watching Monty and my live stream gets done, you can watch that after Monty. And if any of you think that I'm a little bit long on the Murdathon, let me know. I can cut it back. I like doing the Murdathon. I don't mind doing 3-hour webcasts or 8 hours or however long they go. Except I can do it on Fridays. I can't do it on Saturdays. I have to limit a little bit because I got to get some sleep in because Sunday starts my schedule for the week. But I've somehow managed to free myself up for Fridays. I just don't know when it's going to start yet because, there's things I have to do to wind down and reschedule in order to get what I need to get done during the week. And I'm also going to get into live streaming mobile. And again, I have to remind all of you, just so you can help me out on this. YouTube has a peculiar rule that you have to have 1,000 people to live stream. 1,000 subscribers. Now, why this is different than just plain old live streaming, I still haven't gotten a uniform answer on, because it shouldn't make a difference whether you're live streaming from a car or on site, or if you're streaming through a PC, either on site or what have you, because you're going through Wi-Fi to do either one. The only difference is on a cell phone, you're originating on a cell phone and using the capabilities of the phone itself, but you're still accessing the internet. And I have found that I can use my phone as a hotspot, log in with my computer, and broadcast as if I'm broadcasting at home. So I'm puzzled by this, but it's just the way YouTube is. So if I can get at least 1,000 subscribers before I go to Fort Lauderdale, this will make it a lot easier for me to live stream. Now, I have alternative plans in mind. If YouTube continues this policy, I may have to shift over to doing Facebook, or I might use Periscope like I used when I covered the hacker trial in Kentucky a couple of years ago. Anything is possible. So we'll see how it goes. But I would prefer, since I'm familiar with the nomenclature of YouTube, that I could stick to YouTube and webcast from there. So any help I could get from everybody getting subscribers for me, it would be greatly appreciated. And as far as my funding efforts are concerned, I'm going to try Friday to finally get everything set up. There were 2 people that were kind enough to become my founding patrons, and I'm grateful to them. Every little bit helps. I've pretty well got the expenses for the trip to Fort Lauderdale covered. The patron funding and any other funding that I get through possibly setting up either a GoFundMe or a PayPal will be used for future trips to Plum City, Denver, and East Grand Forks, Minnesota. So there's those plans that I have in mind. And anything else that might come up. Who knows? I might wind up going to Arkansas and Virginia before this is all over. Depending on whether or not there's going to be indictments on this kidnapping situation and how far the authorities are going to take this investigation. They may decide that it's going to be enough just to hammer down on this woman who attempted this kidnapping, and the others may get off the hook with a sigh of relief. But I wouldn't count on too much. But the principals, being Field McConnell, Tim Holmseth, Kirk Pendergrass, and Chris Hallett, may have a little bit to worry about. And so it's those factors that I may be covering in the months ahead. And I'm going to need your help to do it. So hopefully by Friday and Saturday I can get enough things together where I can get this information out there for all of you who choose to participate in it. And once again, I would be thankful in advance and appreciate your support to date. I'm quite impressed with the number of people I've managed to acquire as subscribers on my YouTube. And if you want, you can come over to Twitter and follow me over there. Some of us may differ politically, but I think we can work around our politics for the issues at hand, which are these fraudsters that are all over Twitter. They're all over the internet. Yeah, some of them are on Twitter, but they seem to be mainly on YouTube. And so with that, I'm going to close this out and wish everybody well for the rest of the week. I'll probably be back here tomorrow, same time, driving down the road with another monologue. So until then, this is William K. Murtaugh, Mert Witness 1. Have a good one.